Hello and good morning everybody, and welcome back to my little channel. Thanks for coming back to the channel and following me on this video series. And if you are new to the channel, you're very welcome as well. Do like and subscribe so you can get updated every time I upload a new episode like this, but then you can also go back and catch up on the previous episodes as well. So we're now into episode 12, and in this episode we're going to talk about the time in the spirit world. So as usual, grab your morning cup of tea or coffee and let's get into the video. So I wanted to do this video because I wanted to answer the questions that I get asked quite a lot, and I'm sure a lot of other mediums get asked the same thing as well. And that is there such a thing as time in the spirit world? How long do I wait before I go for a reading? How long does it take a spirit person to come through? And of course, people have those questions because they want to hear from their loved ones who have passed over. So the first thing I will say from my own point of view, my own opinions, and all what I'm going to say in this episode is all through my own experience, that there is no such thing as time in the spirit world. And many other mediums you will hear say the same thing. Time is very much a human concept. Humans on this physical earth, we are governed by time, right? And I guess that's how it should be, otherwise we'd be all over the place. But you know, we have deadlines to finish. We have to meet someone by this time. We have to meet someone by that time. We have to get that done by that point. We've got a deadline here. We're always looking at our watches. We're looking at the clocks in our houses and wherever we live, because we have things to do by a certain time. So time is very much a physical thing, which I guess us as humans, we need, right? But in the spirit world, they don't need that. To answer the next question, I'm going to link two together in order for it to make sense what I'm trying to say. So that is, when should I go for a reading, or how long does it take for a spirit person to come through? You know, will my loved one come through? Will they be there straight away? They only died a week ago, for example. Now, firstly, I can't tell you when you need to go for a reading. It's not up to me, it's not up to anybody else when you need, or you feel you need to go for a reading, okay? To add to that, when you do go for a reading, you need to make sure that your mind is in the right place to receive the information that you're going to receive from your loved one. Because you never know what is going to be said. As a medium, we don't know what we're going to tell you, because we just pass on the messages and the evidence that the spirit are giving us. So you need to be in the right place to receive that. So when you look at time from that aspect, it needs to be the right time for you as a person to be ready and prepared to hear whatever the spirit people are going to be saying to you. And alongside that, because there is no essence of time in the spirit world, we never know who's going to come through. We never know, from a spirit point of view, who's going to feel it's the right time to step forward for them. Because what I mean by that is we can't pull people through. So you might want to go for a reading and you might want to hear from just that one person. Now, no medium can guarantee who you're going to hear from. No medium can guarantee that you're going to hear from, let's say, a parent. I can't guarantee if you come for a reading with me that parent is going to come through. So again, you need to be in the right space within your mind to be open to whoever comes through. You know, you might have a long distance cousin come through. You might have an old next door neighbour come through. So spirit will also decide when it is their time for them to come through and make that connection with you. So for example, if they passed only a week ago, from a spirit point of view, they might not feel that it's not time yet for them to come through, because it's only been a week. Not that that makes a difference in every situation, but it's just letting you know and setting those expectations of, no, this is not dial a ghost. No, I can't just pick up the phone and say, right, I want to hear from your dad, please, come on. I can't demand your spirit come through. So it's bearing that in mind as well, that it has to also be the right time for you to receive whatever communication comes through from your loved ones in the spirit world, no matter who they are. So then at this point, I also want to mention or answer the question, how long does it take spirit to come through then? Now I've heard, and I've witnessed it with my own ears from certain mediums that have done live streams and have mentioned this on a live stream, where they've said it takes a spirit person at least 6 months to come through. That is absolute rubbish. That's just in my personal experience, because I've had the total opposite to that, and I'll go into those examples in just a second. But again, spirit will come through when they want to come through. I have no control over that. I have done readings where someone has shown me a picture of a loved one, and I've managed to get that loved one through just through a picture. I had that connection, but it doesn't happen all the time. Again, I would never guarantee to anybody that I can bring a certain loved one through. It's really a case of, for me, you really get what you're given. Because again, I can't control that. But also, spirit know what you need. And I always say to my clients that you will get what you need, not what you want. So you might want a certain person, but actually you need to hear something else from somebody else in spirit. So keep that in mind when you're going for a reading also. And if someone did pass a week ago, they can still come through. There's this thing about, I don't know what it is, this thing about you have to wait a certain time before spirit to make that contact, which is normally the 6 month mark, which I don't believe in personally, because with the next examples I'm going to explain to you, it can be far quicker than that. So these next 3 examples I'm going to give are real life examples, and I wanted to use these examples because they demonstrate the difference in how long it can take a spirit, or how not so long it can take a spirit to come through. And it's just so you guys get an understanding of, oh, okay, so sometimes they come through straight away, sometimes they don't. Why am I waiting so long for my loved one to come through when we're really close in life? Why they're not coming through? So these examples just kind of, hopefully it will clarify some of that. But I'm going to give you the examples from what I remember. So you might have heard a lot of mediums say, I don't remember what I say to people, and that's so true. I think because we do so many readings, but also the information that comes through to us from spirit are borrowed thoughts. They're not our thoughts. So for my personal experience, I will have read somebody a week ago, and they'll come to me saying, "Do you remember that reading you did for me?" And I'll be like, no. So I really don't remember what I say to people, and every medium will tell you the same thing. But there'll be certain parts about certain readings that we do remember because they made an impact for a certain reason. So these next 3, I don't remember the full details of the reading. I don't know the ins and outs of the readings, but there are certain parts of it I do remember. So I'm going to explain those examples now. So the first example is of a reading I did for a lady who had lost her child. She had lost her daughter, and whatever medium she'd been to, her daughter had never come through. But lucky for me, because I am lucky to receive that information, to be able to give those healing messages to a parent who'd lost their child, was absolutely awful. I'm blessed to be able to give that information across, and her daughter did come through to me. Now, so I gave her all this evidence that she took, and she took all the evidence. She knew it was her I was talking about. And in this particular case, this lady waited 16 years for her daughter to come through, and her daughter died when she was 2 years old. And to be able to do that was amazing. And she said that, David, you are the first. And this is not to be egoic, but this is just to explain the impact it has on people. That she said, David, you are the first, only medium that's ever brought my daughter through, and I've been waiting 16 years for that contact. Now, some people would think and question, well, why did it take her daughter 16 years to come through? It's her daughter. That's that, it's a mother and daughter bond. Why take 16 years? Now, I don't necessarily have all the answers. I don't necessarily have all the answers for that particular situation. But it goes back to me saying, as a medium, we can't control who comes through and when. It can be about timing. Are you in the right place to receive that information? Especially being a child of yours. Are you emotionally in that right mindset to receive that information from your child? It's going to be emotional. It could be the medium isn't the right medium for that particular contact. It might be, readings you've been to before are in a public setting, like a demonstration, but that spirit person doesn't want to give all their details and air their dirty laundry in a public setting. They might want that one-to-one setting. So many different variables, but again, we can't control who comes through and when they come through. Readings really are orchestrated by spirit people. I open myself up to spirit and allow them to connect, but I don't pull them through. I can't demand they come through, as I've already said. It's very much up to the spirit person when they want to come through. And that particular situation, that was just the right situation and the right time for her daughter to come through and let her mum know that she does go on to live in the next world. So this next example I'm going to give is of a reading that actually shocked me a little bit and took me by surprise, and was definitely a learning curve, I have to say. And I never thought that this situation would happen to me. I had heard that it had happened to other mediums I'd watched on TV, because they also gave their account of the same thing happening and were also just as shocked when it did happen. And it definitely answered my question of, how long does it take for a spirit person to come through? So let's go into more details about that reading now. So this was a reading I did for a lovely lady who I knew from Cambridge. And I was doing a video reading with her, and I felt, and I didn't know about her family. So, although I knew her, I didn't know intimate details of her family. And I felt a father figure step forward, which turns out to be her ex-father-in-law. So just to validate it was him that I was in contact with, I was obviously giving her evidence that it was him, about his condition. I was giving her pertinent evidence about her current situation that she wanted guidance on, but also he was showing me things in her fridge which I would have no idea about. And it was actually quite an uplifting reading, to be honest. We laughed, and it made her laugh, and she knew exactly who it was I was talking about, and that was her ex-father-in-law, who had been on her mind recently because she was still connected that side of the family. Her ex-husband is the father of her children, so she still had that connection with that side of the family, but it had been on her mind recently. So I gave all this evidence, and she took it, she understood it. And this is where the learning curve happened. She told me that her father-in-law was currently in the hospital, wired up to a machine that was keeping him alive, that it had his last rites read to him, and he was basically just being kept alive by a machine, and he was actually still physically here. As you can imagine, my jaw hit the floor, because I didn't necessarily know how to react, because this person, the physical remains are still here, being kept alive, but yet I'm talking to this person, the spirit of this person. Now, I didn't really know what to say, and I can't even remember if I apologised or not, to be honest, because I was so in shock. But she was alright with it, because she knew that he was basically, for lack of a better phrase, dead. She knew that he'd had his last rites given, as I've just said, and she knew that the only thing keeping him alive was that machine. So if she'd been somebody else maybe, and not so polite, I'm not sure how I would have dealt with it, but it was definitely a learning curve for me. So what did I learn from that situation? So firstly, I learned there is no such thing as time. Spirit will come through when they want to come through, and they will take the opportunity to speak to a loved one when the opportunity presents itself, and that was during that reading. And it also taught me that our souls, when we are dying, our soul, our spirit, whatever you want to call it, doesn't just jump out of the body when we pass. There's a gradual process where it starts to leave the physical body bit by bit, especially when that person is dying. And the father-in-law had been very, very, very ill. So it taught me that his the spirit, the soul, leaves our body gradually, bit by bit. And so really he was half in the spirit world and half here. And it was the half in the spirit world that I was connecting to, almost letting me know that he is all right, and to let her know that he's okay, he is ascending, he is going on to a better place, no more pain or discomfort from the illness that he had. And it still shocks me to this day, because, you know, that was the first experience that I had. I was very early on in my development. So the first experience I had of that kind of situation. So that example there really gives you an idea that there is no such thing as time. Spirit will make themselves aware when they want to make themselves aware. I hasten to add, no, he did pass very shortly afterwards. But still, as you can imagine, quite a shock and a surprise, that reading, but it definitely taught me some lessons there. So this last example that I'm going to give was another one of those situations that it did take me by surprise, but it was another validation that there is no such thing as time in spirit. But it also taught me that our souls and our spirits know when we're about to leave the physical body and about to leave this physical earth. So let's get some more details about that now. So it was during one of my live Facebook broadcasts, where before I did the broadcast, I was sat and tuning in and asking, if you're there, come in, pop in. And I kept getting this name Doreen played over and over and over again in my mind. Doreen, 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 Doreen. And I thought, who is this Doreen? I'm not even doing anything yet, but I'm hearing this Doreen placed in my head. And I don't know a Doreen, so I knew it wasn't my memory, because I have no recollection of knowing a Doreen. But then I also started getting these little bits of information coming in, so I had to write them down in my notepad. Anyhow, I got on the live, and as you know, when you're doing a live broadcast on Facebook, you can't see people unless you invite them on. You can only see their names pop in the comments. And I saw that my mum had just jumped on to watch me, as she does anyway. And so I gave all this information about Doreen, which was quite specific evidence, I must say. And I got her personality, and I kept seeing her say, I'm Doreen, I'm Doreen, I'm Doreen. I got the colour of her hair, the style of her hair, the glasses, a necklace she wore, down to the last food she ate, which was crumpets. If you're in the UK, you know what crumpets are. And some other stuff, which I now can't remember. But it's very specific, but nobody could take this Doreen. Nobody knew who this Doreen was. So the surprise and the shock of the situation came the next morning, along with a learning curve. And it involves my lovely mum. Now, just to give you some background so you understand the story. My mum at the time worked in a care home. She was a carer and a senior carer for the elderly in this old people's home. And that particular night of my live broadcast, she'd literally been home half an hour from work, and obviously has her notifications set up, so she knows whenever I come on, so she watches. So she was actually, as I said before, she was actually watching the Facebook Live that evening. Now, there was a resident called Doreen, who she was looking after. Obviously not just her, but other people as well. But Doreen was a member of, she was in the old people's home. And on the day that I did the live, Mum was at work. Doreen kept trying to get my mum's attention, but kept calling her name. She wasn't calling any other members of staff, but she kept calling my mum. And so when my mum left work, Doreen was, she was there. She was alive. So the day after the live, it was mum wasn't on shift, so it was a day off, and she got a text message from a colleague at the old people's home. She thought, oh, here we go, I'm being called into work on my day off. But no, the text message went something along the lines of, just to let you know, Doreen passed away in the early hours of this morning. Now, to my mum's utter shock, because she'd left Doreen alive and kicking the day before in the old people's home, but she'd passed the next morning when my mum wasn't on shift. Everything I said about this Doreen, Mum validated. And the reason she didn't accept the information on the live is because Doreen was alive when she left her in the home on that particular day, so she didn't put two and two together. But everything I said about this Doreen, to her personality, to the necklace, the glasses, and even more so down to the crumpet, which I mentioned, that Doreen had issues swallowing, and the only thing she could eat was crumpets. So that was a validation that there was no doubt that was Doreen that I was connecting with in the spirit world. So what I learned from that situation was that our spirits and our souls, on some subconscious level, know when we're going to pass before the physical knows it's past, if that makes sense. Because it was almost like, and I do feel this strongly, and I said this to my mum, it's almost like, because Doreen knew the day after the live that she was no longer going to be there, and her soul also knew that my mum wasn't going to be on shift that day, because physically Doreen would not know that my mum was not going on shift the next day, but it's almost like her soul and her spirit did. So because her soul knew she was going to pass on the day my mum wasn't there, she chose the day before she'd physically passed, to come back in spirit form to say goodbye to my mum and thank you for looking after her. Which in one sense is really beautiful, that the soul recognises the help and the assistance that another person had on them whilst they were still physically here. But it's still shocking, the fact that the day I was connecting to Doreen's spirit, her body was physically alive and here. But again, it goes back to the understanding of our souls know when we're going to pass, and it doesn't, when we die, the soul doesn't just jump out of the body. It gradually leaves the body until it eventually, that cord is cut and it's free to fly in the spirit world. So I hope that this video has answered some of those questions that I get asked, that I mentioned before, as in, how long should I wait to have a reading? How long should it take for a spirit person to come through? And all those kind of questions. And I think you will see from my experiences that there is you can't put a time frame on it, but you are free to make up your own mind. I can only give you my own personal experience and what's happened there, and and they prove to me without a doubt it does not take 6 months for a spirit person to come through. There is no time frame, there is no time scale on that, but you're free to make up your own mind and to make up your own decisions there. Your soul will know it's true when you hear it. So if you want to believe it takes 6 months, then go for it. But I know that in my experience, through what I've just said, that is not the case. But that's it. Thank you for being patient and for allowing me to express those opinions and those experiences in this video. So thank you very much for watching. Please continue to watch the videos and to follow the video journey with me. This has been episode 12, and I hope to see you in episode 13.